Hi, this is Val Schober, and this is the case study of Copyright in the Computer, Regulations Governing Technology. To summarize, this takes place at St. Regis School. It's in a rural community. It houses K through 8 and has 420 students. The financial support of the school consists of state allocation money, and they have two major fundraisers. One is a school-sponsored fundraiser, and the other is a PTA-sponsored fundraiser. The principal, Mr. Keith Sample, he has been the principal for 3 years. He did not grow up in St. Regis area or St. Regis School or area. So his goal through the first year is to work to establish positive relationships with teachers and residents, which we have learned in previous classes that this is a very key point of being a administrator. After his second year as being principal, he had more supporters, so he was ready to move forward to influence his vision for St. Regis School. There is big PTA involvement within the school. The school faculty and staff agreed with the money of the last fundraising that they would purchase new computers. So 20 new computers were purchased and a computer lab was established to house the computers. Then the goal for the next 2 years was to purchase new software programs. Mrs. Lynn is the library and media specialist. Her and Mr. Sample came together to prioritize and make a list of what they thought would be the most beneficial software programs to benefit many grades and subjects. Mrs. Lynn then served as the lab teacher in addition to the library and media specialist. They found that the computer lab was used frequently. All but 3 teachers used the computer lab frequently. And then teachers use the computer lab to incorporate different activities using the new software with their units of study. Teachers then wanted to supplement their classroom activities with independent student use of the computers in their classroom. So the teachers then asked Mrs. Lynn to copy the newly purchased software programs to install in their classroom computers. At this point, Mrs. Lynn did not ask permission from the authors to copyright the CDs, which we have learned through this class is a violation of copyright laws. And so one teacher then was concerned about the copyright laws and knew that this was a violation. She then refused to take the CDs as she did not want to be in violation of copyright laws. Then she went and discussed the situation with Mr. Sample, as at her former school, teachers were not allowed to copy programs. So she knew that this was not something that they should be doing and that it was also ethically incorrect. Mr. Sample then wanted to know how many and what programs were copied, as this is the first that he was aware of this situation. And that he then discussed the situation with Mrs. Lynn. And Mrs. Lynn said that she was making copies so that the technology would be available to more teachers and students and would save the school money. Mr. Sample did approach Mrs. Lynn in a positive way because he did think that she was being very resourceful, but then also followed up with that it was a violation of copyright, and that could mean serious consequences for the school district, and the staff, and he wanted her to collect all the copies. She then explained how the PTA president helped make copies of the CD, and they were very pleased how the school was stretching their money to save the programs, or save money on the programs. Looking at this, the legal and ethical issues in violating the Copyright Act or copyright law, and the Copyright Act states that prohibits unauthorized use of copyright material without payment or permission from the copyright author. You can purchase site license to provide legal protection for the use of software. And with the license, you can usually make a reasonable number of copies, but that is written within the network license, if that is usually required and needs to be read through by the school, and I am not sure that that was done. We did not have enough information. Copyright law also states that only one machine at a time may use the program unless some sort of a license is purchased that, or it's within the program copyright states that you can use it on so many programs. There are possible fines of up to $150,000 and subject to jail time for violating copyright laws. It could be also a violation of school policy, which we do not know or did not learn in this case study what the policy was for violation of copyright. And overall, it is not ethical to make copies of programs onto CDs and use them for other purposes. We can look at the fair use doctrine, which is you can copyright certain material for educational purpose, depending on the nature of work, the amount of material extracted, and the impact of use. But copying CDs with programs does not fall within the fair use doctrine. And that the other thing that the law says, or looking at the law, is that schools need to take aggressive action to monitor that copywriting is not taking place, and I'm not sure that that happened within this school. So to synthesize, I said that copying software programs onto CDs is violating copyright laws. The facts that we know in this case study, the people that were involved were Mr. Sample, the principal, Mrs. Lynn, the library, media, computer lab tech teacher, Mrs. Brandon, other teachers, stakeholders, which include the community, PTA members, and parents, and the district administration. The place is St. Regis School, St. Regis Town. The program is that it took place in a school setting, in the computer lab, and in classrooms within the K-8 school for use for curriculum and instruction. To review and prioritize, we saw the need for new software programs in the school to be utilized in the computer lab as well as in the classrooms. We looked at the issue of copying CDs and violating copyright laws, which happened in this case. And then what we need to know and prioritize is what policies are in place. So what policies are in place in this school for violating copyright laws? And who has stake in this situation? I feel like staff, stakeholders, and administration all have stake in this situation. Some things that I need to know and prioritize would be, is the superintendent aware of the situation? Another thing we need to look at is, do stakeholders understand copyright laws? Does the PTA president understand copyright laws? And then I need to look at, do I know enough information? Which I think that there are a lot of information that needs to be learned in order to establish the specific next steps. Although I have some scenarios that I would do next. So what I think to do next is do nothing. Gather all CDs and discuss with only Mrs. Lynn, address the situation as a whole school, or take disciplinary action. So looking at doing nothing, the pros to this would be the students as teachers have access to the programs, so they will be able to utilize through curriculum and instruction how to use these programs, and it saves money, so that the school does not have to buy new computer programs. The cons is that it is not ethical and it is illegal. We can gather CDs and discuss with Mrs. Lynn, as I don't think Mrs. Lynn was malicious or purposely tried to do something wrong. I really do think that she was probably trying to save money and do what was best for the students. Taking this would be simple. It does not involve others, and it will take care of the situation at the moment. The cons, I feel like it's a short fix, so it doesn't take care of the situation as a whole if other needs like this arise, and it really does not solve the problem. And it does not solve the problem of, does the staff understand copyright laws? We can address the situation as a whole. Pros would be that we can educate and communicate with all staff and stakeholders so that this could be a learning experience and we're communicating with everybody. It does involve everybody. It involves staff and stakeholders. So if we look at it as a whole versus just discussing the situation with Mrs. Lynn, and we can analyze how law and policies are applied fairly, equitable, and ethically within this situation if we address it with the whole staff, including stakeholders. The cons, it does involve others. That would create more time and energy to address the situation. It could create some negative attitudes as for taking care of the situation, and it will cost more money in the long run to purchase new programs. Disciplinary action, I don't know that there are, as far as pros, I don't know that there would be any pros to taking disciplinary action because I don't think, I mean, Mrs. Lynn did do this to try to benefit students and the school. The cons, it does not address the policy as a whole as far as the policy of, and it doesn't address what to do next with violating copyright laws. I think the best option is to address the situation as a whole. Since this is a new program and technology, having the 20 computers and the new technology is new for this program, for the school, it would be a learning experience for all staff, school, and stakeholders, and it would create open communication of ethics and law for the community and the staff and the school and all the stakeholders involved. So how to implement my decision? First, I would discuss the situation with the superintendent. Second, I would have an all-staff meeting to discuss copyright laws, which should be done at the beginning of the school year, but at this point I feel like it needs to be done as soon as possible. We need to post copyright laws around the school, particularly in the computer lab and the workrooms. Third, I need to have all the staff gathered any and all copied CDs that were made. Fourth, I want to communicate with PTA and other stakeholders to discuss copyright laws and consequences for breaking the law. And you can do that through community members or sending out emails or newsletters to kind of discuss that situation. Fifth, I think we need to create a policy for staff and students on expectations with computers and computer usage. This document needs to be signed by all students and parents, which would create open communication then on what your expectations are. Six, we need to have ongoing education for all staff on all policies and laws. So that needs to be ongoing throughout the school year. Seventh, I think we do need to brainstorm with staff and stakeholders to increase technology in the school. It is working, the staff and students like it, and they're utilizing it to increase instruction. So I think that we need to communicate, brainstorm with everybody on different ways to do that, which would include different ways for funding and money and involving everybody in those decisions. And then I think we need to develop a plan for ongoing technology development, because this is something that needs to be done for this school and for any school, as far as kind of what their plans are, what they'd like for the future. And again, it goes along with just policies and procedures, so everybody's on the same page. So thank you, and this was my presentation on this case study.